Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
I'm sitting next to Mel
In the same room.
in the same room because we're just having a crisis management session.
Anita is intervening for me.
Yeah, Mel's had a really bad week.
You guys, why? Last week, I was like, I'm making breakthroughs. And now, boom.
In the toilet.
I hate grief. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's complicated. So I came over to save Mel's bacon. So we just went for a walk in the mountains, and it's still too hot at night. But we had to do it.
And now we're recording this, and today's the 4th of July.
Fireworks. That was my best attempt at being patriotic.
We were on TV this week.
Oh, yeah.
That's where all of this started.
Yes, it is true. That was really fun. I was about to throw up. Mel was fine. But then it went really well.
Yeah, we had 2 goals. Don't sound like idiots and don't talk over each other.
And we made both of those goals. High five. See, we can high five when we're in person. Can't do that
Yeah.
when we're Zooming. It's been a rough week for me, too.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about it?
Please?
So my son, who I've talked about, who just turned 8, in our church you get baptized when you turn 8. And typically your dad baptizes you. So in planning his baptism, I had to ask him who he would like to baptize him. And that has opened this horrible grief briefcase, suitcase, treasure chest, I don't know what to call it. But it's like people have told me that kids re-grieve when big events happen to them. This is not what I expected it to look like, and it has been horrendous. It's like for the first time he's realized that his dad is dead and not ever coming back. Like before, I don't know if he had really thought it through. He was 5 when Jason died, so he's 8 now, and every night he has just been crying. Like, it's so horrible. Like, why did he have to die? He's never coming back. I'm never going to see him again. Everybody else has a dad. Why don't I have a dad? And I'm just like, I have no answers for him. And then he's crying and I'm crying and I just want to go to sleep, but I also feel so bad for him. And part of me is just like, why are we doing this? You know, aren't we done with this? And the answer is no. And it's been really tough. And before it was tough on him, it was incredibly emotional for me. Like, people, when they were asking me about plans for it, I was like, I can't talk about it. Don't talk to me about it. I can't talk about it. And then, you know, we finally started making plans, and then he jumped off of the grief diving board, and we're knee deep in it. So,
Boo.
I think that there's got to be something in the air.
It's bad.
Because I know that you're struggling, and I'm struggling, and I know of a few other people who are actually having a hard time too.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like I am back to year one all in 1 week. It's so weird.
Yeah, and frustrating because you feel like you've been making all these strides and progress, and then it's just been like wiped away.
And that you know tools and you know more information, and sometimes just because you know the information doesn't mean you're going to feel better.
It's like, what do you... Like, you have to, like, do something with them, and then they don't even work sometimes.
I know. I've been trying all week.
So, we're canceling this week. Mel's gonna stay in bed. I'm gonna eat licorice. It will maybe make things better.
Maybe.
But maybe not.
I'm supposed to try and ride my bike tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Anita gave me an assignment.
To ride your bike.
She said that's a soft reset for me.
Yeah. I was like, have you tried a soft reset? And then have you tried the factory reset?
I did try the factory reset. I did try the rescue anxiety drugs, which were amazing until they wore off. And then I felt worse than before. So now I'm worried that I shouldn't take them ever again.
Yeah.
Because
we've been discussing that, and I don't know what the answer is. But
how's everyone else doing?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's universal or if it's just us who's having a rough.
It was also Canada Day this week,
which had some controversy this year to it. So, yeah.
I don't know about it. Tell me, because I've been in my grief cave ignoring.
You want to know?
Okay, well, it's appropriate that Canada Day was this last week because our next guest is Canadian. We love our Canadian friends.
They're so amazing.
Yes.
We love all of our friends, but it's fun to talk to some international friends. Mel, do you think we can do the patron shout out?
I think we can.
Can you make it through that? Mel was like, I don't think I can even do this. And so I'm making her. So
I know, she's making me.
It's fine though.
All right.
So if you want to check out the Patreon, it's patreon.com/WWDN. When I listen to other podcasts now and they're like, visit our Patreon page, and they start saying Patreon, like in my brain, I'm like, /WWDN. And then they say something else and I'm like, that's wrong. But I guess different podcasts get to have their own patrons.
I guess. I wish they all had ours so that we could steal their patrons.
We could hijack them.
You mean we could be a hacker? Oh, that was another thing that happened this week.
You guys.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Put the Patreon on hold. The Widow Wives Club, we ask people to provide proof that they're a widow. And we do this for a very good reason, and it's that we have people who try to join who are not widows. And if you're in the club, you know that we talk about really sensitive things, and we kind of lay it all out there, and it's so supportive, and it's so nice to be able to just be honest about things. And that dynamic would not be able to happen if you weren't sure that the people in there were in your same boat. So, we had an angry person get very, very mad that we had the audacity to ask her to prove that she was a widow.
And I would add, not just mad, but it was pretty violent and threatening. It was kind of scary.
I did not appreciate it. So anyway, that happened. And the ironic thing is people keep saying, well, that's when you know you've made it, is when you make people angry. And I'm like, but we're just trying to help. We're like, it wasn't even something controversial we said. It wasn't even like, we hate cats or, like something.
Or donuts.
Yes. Or like.
Yeah. It showed the state of mind of the person, for sure, applying, which makes me sad because then that person really does need support from people. I'm like, oh.
That's how I felt too. I was like, you really need to be in there, but you can't be in there because now, many bad words I was called. And the other ironic thing was that all of the things that she was like, you're ruining my life for this, she sent a bunch of pictures. I was like, I could send you the exact same pictures back from my own life. Like, everybody in the club has gone through the same thing. So
we're trying our best.
It was kind of disheartening, and I felt it upset me a lot. But I have to try and not be like that. That's what everybody keeps saying. They're like, you have to have thick skin when you put yourself out there. And so.
Well, we're working on it, but we're still humans.
Yeah.
With feelings. And we're grieving. Oh my gosh.
We're having a rough week, so be nice to us.
Please.
Okay. Should we do the patron shout out now?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to start with our dead husbands. We'll start with our secret dead husband, who's behind door number 1.
And our secret dead husband says, there, Anita.
There,
I
Mel.
appreciate what you're doing.
Oh.
Thank you for protecting the widows in the group. It's going to be fine.
And thank you to Julianne for helping us with that.
And Missy.
And Missy also. Next, we'll say thank you to
Constance Dahlbach,
David Kelly,
Don Satterwhite,
Ivan Misner, Circle R,
Kat,
Amy
Sapp,
Ashley Hahn. Oh my gosh. Ashley Hahn. I don't know.
Christina Shiflett,
Danielle Ketterberg,
Not a Debbie Downer,
Dennis Brazo,
Jenny Taylor,
Jenny Wang,
Kathy M,
Kirsten Stromberg,
Laura Bradbury,
Leslie Webb,
Missy Schubert,
Rachel Barbosa,
Sarah Morris. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Rachel. I almost hijacked your Sarah Morris.
The Winehouse, Karen Corneo.
Wait.
I know, I did that on purpose.
Also my mom. No, Karen is not my mom.
Sylvia Shore. Anna Tracy.
Christina Scambato.
Christine Anderson.
Mindy Holmgren.
Don Barber.
Diana Becker.
Emily Thornton.
Emily Toledo.
Aaron Posick.
Gabe Lozano.
Ian Sini.
Ileana Bell.
Jackie. I couldn't think of a good one.
Jamie Aliota.
My mom.
Jenny Barrow.
Jocelyn Milo.
The fancy lady Joy Kirsch.
Katie Radcliffe.
Kara Scara, also an interventioner.
Yep. Lori Farrington.
Marie Hoffman.
Marjorie Lewis.
Mary McGowan.
Peter Rukavina.
Sarah Kennedy.
You can take the selfie, Sarah. You just have to prop your phone on a rock.
Totally.
Shannon Helm.
Sunshine Haven.
Tammy Schwartz.
Tara Wallace. Valerie Packer.
And Stained Glass Wendy. Thank you so much to everybody who supports the podcast. We truly appreciate all of you. Helps us to feel like we're not terrible people like that one lady thought.
Maybe we are. No. Everybody, pay attention to your Instagram and Facebook accounts this week because we have a special announcement coming your way. So Newsflash! 1953.
Yes, pay attention. We'll be announcing some exciting news that we're pretty excited about. We hope you will be too.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonownow.
And remember to check out the Patreon, patreon.com. Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC-registered investment advisor. /WWDN. This episode is brought to you by the Misner Family Foundation in memory of Elisabeth Misner. Should we get to the episode?
Yes!
We're so excited. We had a lot of fun talking to this guest. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows kind of having a sucky week, trying to figure out
Widow we do now. Hey, when we're in the same room, it's easier to say that.
Everything's easier. Mel, do you want to meet our guest?
Please.
Today, we have the one and the only Emily Cave.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome, Emily. Can you tell us where you are recording from?
So I'm recording from Edmonton, Alberta. So in Canada, in the middle of Canada. It's super cold here in the winter, but it's nice here today. So that's a positive.
How far are you from the gigantic mall?
Oh, like 20 minutes.
There's a gigantic mall in Alberta.
In Edmonton.
Yeah, it's got like a roller coaster and like a hotel and like an amusement park.
Are there water slides?
I think there's a skating rink. Yeah, skating rink, water slides.
I feel like malls don't exist anymore. They're all dying out, but not this mall. This mall is more than just a mall.
It's world famous.
World famous. Are you from there, Emily?
No, I'm from just outside of Toronto, Ontario originally, but I lived in Edmonton on and off 2 years before my husband died, and then this year after since he's died. So adjustment, not originally from here, but have a great group of friends here and support system. So moved back after he passed away.
Spoiler alert, Emily's a widow like us.
Boo.
Boo. Also, yay that you're our friend now.
It's such a great sisterhood.
It kind of is. It's kind of annoyingly wonderful to meet a lot of other widows, and especially widows who are kind of in your same boat, who are younger and just have tragic losses. It's like they say that it's a really steep membership price, but the group is pretty cool once you get to know the people.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Emily, do you want to tell us a little bit about your husband? How you met, who he is, all the stuff.
So my husband was Colby Cave. He was a hockey player. He played in the Boston Bruins organization for 4.5 years, and then the Edmonton Oilers organization for 2.5 years. We originally met, I think, almost 9 years ago now. I came across his Instagram home feed. I was living in Ontario, and he was playing in Saskatchewan. Never met him. He was 18, and he looked at one of his teammates in the locker room, and he was like, this girl's my dream, like Instagram crush. Like, I'm going to marry her one day.
What?
Serious?
Yeah.
You guys met from Instagram?
Yeah. And the funny part is he pursued me for like 2 years, and I didn't want to be a part of the hockey life. He lived hours away, like a plane ride away. It's like, I'm never replying to this guy. I ignored him for 2 years. And then I finally, like, that's the inside joke, caved, because our last name is Cave, to one of his many DMs. And then, yeah, the rest went from there.
Okay, so Colby was low-key stalking you, and then finally you were like, maybe you're not a weirdo, I'll go out with you.
Yeah, I flew out to Boston to meet him where he was playing, because I was still in Canada and I was in school, and he was playing out there. And then, yeah, we were together, or dated officially, for almost 3 years, and then engaged, and then married. And then we were only married less than 9 months before he passed away. So not that long.
That's not cool at all.
Yeah. So I was a widow before we celebrated our first wedding anniversary.
What is the hockey life like as the partner of a hockey player?
It's all right. I mean, it's such a bittersweet. The girls definitely don't get enough credit. I think that a lot of the girls and families just kind of have this like image, and they don't work, and the guys are like playing all the time. But it actually can be like pretty lonely. So I've been really lucky to be on teams where like the girls rally around each other. Because for me, when he played in Boston, being Canadian, I couldn't work there. I didn't have a visa. Nothing. So I kind of sacrificed my career and my schooling. Definitely a crazy kind of hockey lifestyle. They're always on the go. It's super exciting. We were really lucky and really blessed. We got to experience so many cool things, even in our short time together. So I'll always be really grateful for that. But unless you've kind of been in the hockey life, it's kind of hard to understand. My hockey family has been incredible. So I'm grateful for them for sure.
Did you travel with him to all of his games? Or did you send him and say, goodbye, honey, and see him when he came back?
Yeah, so they would go on the road for like 2 weeks and we wouldn't see them for 2 weeks or wherever where there's other sports. I know in baseball sometimes they travel with the spouses, like the families go watch them play on the road. Where yeah, hockey girls don't watch them play, so they kind of just stay back in the home city. So yeah, no, I never traveled with him. I mean, if he was playing in my hometown in Toronto, then I'd fly home and see my parents and see my family there. But yeah, no, we don't travel with the boys. So it's kind of different per sport.
I have a secret question for you. Do you
Yes.
even like hockey?
I like hockey. I didn't know a lot about hockey. So when I met him, I knew the puck went in the net and that was about it. He kind of liked it because if he had a bad game, I wouldn't be able to tell him it was bad or good because I didn't know what he was doing on the ice.
So funny.
So yeah, it's good. I like it now. I think it's harder for me to watch now, but I do like it.
Do you get your Canadian citizenship revoked if you say you don't like it? Like, do they kick you out?
Ooh, they
Yeah,
might.
so we better be careful with that one.
Yeah, Canada's like a diehard hockey fans for sure. We're a little crazy up here.
You guys had just been married, and you said that you were only married for 9 months and then he died. What happened?
Obviously, when you're a professional athlete, you get tested all the time. Like I always say Colb was an epitome of health. He was under 10% body fat, like passed all the workouts. There was no signs, symptoms, nothing. And we were playing in California and we came back to Canada when COVID started, kind of end of March, beginning of April 2020. And we were quarantining at my parents' house in Toronto. They have a basement apartment. Kind of didn't know what was going on. And we landed on the Thursday. And the Monday, Colb started complaining about a headache late at night, around like 11:30. And I was like, this is weird. Like, he never has a headache. And he was like, it's fine. It's just a migraine. Said Colb, it could be a tumor because I was so anxious and paranoid. And I'm pretty sure he told me to stop being dramatic. And which is like a typical boy thing to do. Through the night, he had a headache and he was up about 4 times, not feeling well. So again, we just kind of thought migraine. It was COVID. So no one wanted to go to the hospital. And then that next morning around 6:30, I rolled over and I touched his face and he was hypothermic, and he could barely talk. So he was like mumbling, couldn't really communicate. I ran upstairs to my parents, called the ambulance. They came and took him away. Because of COVID, I couldn't be with him. And then they actually ended up helicoptering him to another hospital and I couldn't be with him in the helicopter or anything there. They rushed him into brain surgery and they found a massive colloid cyst. So colloid cyst is like one of the rarest non-cancerous brain tumors there could ever be. And it's extremely rare to have no symptoms, and it's extremely rare to pass away from it. Like, there was articles after he passed away from like top neurosurgeons in Canada, and they said like Colby Cave's death is a result of just very, very bad luck. Like, it is like the craziest, like you would have never guessed. I think there's only like a handful of cases kind of like his. So yeah, it was a shock. He was in the hospital for 4 days. Never woke up after brain surgery. He was in medically induced coma, and then he passed away 4 days later. But again, because of COVID, like I wasn't allowed in there. So that's been like a really hard thing, just like with guilt. Obviously, there's a lot of guilt with widowhood, but not being there, like when he died, it was out of my control. It was COVID restrictions, but that's been like really hard pill to kind of swallow.
COVID has made the widowhood thing amped up by 1,000 to 1,000,000, especially for those whose spouses died during the lockdown time. It's just like, are you kidding me? I have to do this widowhood thing. I have to lose my partner and my spouse. But let's add on to it all of these restrictions and unknowns.
Funeral things, isolation. It's already so isolating to be a widow, especially a young widow, I think, because it's not really recognized by a lot of people.
Yeah, a year later, we just finally had his funeral. Like, it's crazy.
When he went into the hospital, Did they immediately know what kind of tumor it was, or they figured that out during the surgery?
They figured it out during the surgery. So when they ambulanced him to the first hospital, they did a quick CT scan and they saw fluid in the brain and they automatically thought brain bleed, but it wasn't actually until he landed. There was no blood in the brain. It was when he landed in the helicopter at the surgery or when he did brain surgery, that they actually said it was not blood. It was spinal fluid filling his brain, because the cyst had just moved over just a little bit enough. They came in and they told me colloid cyst, and you never hear of that. It's so rare. So yeah, it was crazy. Some days I'm still like, what just happened?
You've obviously been in the spotlight. How is that going? Grieving and losing your person. It sounds so hard and stupid.
It's horrific. It's funny. Like, I was like a normal human being. Like, I don't know. I had a few like just close friends on Instagram, like nothing too crazy before. And then Cole, being a public figure, when he was in the hospital, there had to be like public statements. So the NHL had to release public statements. The Edmonton Oilers had to release public statements from me. So I will never forget, I think one of the most craziest experiences, other than his death, was when I was sitting in one of the rooms and the neurosurgeon came in and critical care doctor and everything. And they had told me that I couldn't see him, that he was behind the glass, that I'd have to leave after 4 days. But they said, we need to address another situation. We need to make a password for when I went home, because media and fans and people were calling the hospital pretending to be me to get information on him. And that was like the start of downhill from there. That's when my life went. I knew I was never going to be normal again. So yeah, the media blew up. My parents' house after he passed away had like media outside of it. I mean, I just went from like a normal human being to international spotlight. So that's been really a big change. And I knew when it happened, I had two options. Either I could just like deny it all, or I could take it. And as you guys are doing with the podcast, I can be open and honest about young widowhood and so many other things to help others, because there's not a lot about young widows and grieving. Or I could go quiet. And I think sometimes, I'm sure like people think that I love the media, but I actually secretly hate it all. I don't like the attention. I'm a big introvert. So it's been an adjustment, like a public funeral, anything. If like someone sees me, I moved my rings over eventually. And I had someone DM me that they're upset because they saw me in public, that I'm not wearing my wedding ring anymore. Like, it's just, everything's a little bit more amplified. So yeah, it's just getting used to a big change, which I never imagined in my life for sure. So yeah, the public eye is not as fun as what many may feel like.
This is what I'm imagining right now at the hospital. Somebody like calls up and they're like, hello, this is Emily. I'm just wondering about Colby's condition. And they're like,
what is the password?
It's crazy. Like, what in your right mind? Like, I mean, the password was lime green. I can say the password now, but like, crazy that had to happen.
Yeah. I've heard so many stories with stuff like that happening, where there have been murders and things like that, and then the media will come and just they're forgetting and not treating people like they're victims or like
humans.
Have you had therapeutic support where it's helped you out a lot, and family support? What's that looking like for you?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I was set up with like a therapist right away. She's a lifesaver. I want to be her when I'm older. Like, she's just the best human being. I swear, great therapists can go long ways. So yeah, I've been really lucky. I talked to her almost every day when he first passed away, and then now like have a routine with her. My family has been beyond incredible. The hockey community has been beyond incredible. Cole grew up with a billet family. They've been really incredible when he was 15. You know, the positive about the public eye, you only hear the negatives, as it's human to focus on the negatives, but the amount of amazing positive people reaching out that have heard the story or sending nice messages or have sent gifts have been so thoughtful and generous, which really keep you afloat on so many days. Like people don't realize like a quick someone of a thinking of you text or checking in means so much because you don't have your person to text. Like you don't have that. So just being able to text anyone is like a huge deal. So yeah, I've really appreciated so many people's support. It's crazy. You look back and you're like, I don't know how I got this far. And then you see like all the people that have like really carried you. So I'm really, yeah, really grateful for that. I know other people that don't have that as much. So my heart goes out to them and I feel for people that have more or less support. So yeah, it's a crazy life.
So Emily, when my husband died, he died suddenly. He was a school teacher. He taught 8th grade English, which means that he gets to go straight to heaven. But I remember feeling so irritated that as soon as he died, I got letters from the school district and it was like, your insurance will end at the end of the month. And I mean, it was just like, they just erased him from the planet. And I felt like so hurt by the fact that it was just like, they just dropped him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm not just dropping this, but you guys are just done with him. Have you felt any of that from the hockey organizations? Has it felt like we're done and we're moving on?
I'm really, again, really lucky because obviously I know there's horrific situations like yours that you just explained where people are just dropped. The Oilers and the NHL have done the complete opposite. 2 days after he passed away, they started a memorial fund, which I'm running here in Edmonton. They've done games. They wore 12 on their jerseys. Sportsnet and like NBC did a documentary. His funeral was obviously broadcasted for everyone around the world to watch. So I've really been lucky, if you can be lucky as a widow, that I've had that support and keeping his legacy alive. Yeah, there's a lot of that in the beginning. I mean, slowly now it definitely does die down. I think even just talking with my therapist, it was almost a distraction a little bit in the beginning that there was like the memorial fund and all these things. It kept me like almost a little bit more excited. I don't know if excited is the appropriate word, but something like there was going to be this game or I had to film this documentary, and it kind of maybe pushed me in denial a little bit more. So then when all of that has now slowly stopped, it's kind of like, what now? And then with COVID, it's been like delayed as well. So yeah, I think more the denial and everything delayed is now hitting more than what it probably would have if it wasn't so public, for sure.
What does his memorial fund go towards?
So it goes to providing equipment for underprivileged children so that they can learn how to play hockey. And then it also goes to children mental health initiatives. So 2 really incredible things important to me and Colby's heart. And obviously because we weren't able to have kids, we weren't married that long, it's called like Colby's Kids. And we're going to help like all these children with it. So that will be like kind of our passion together, like moving forward, kind of our kids, the way that will like help them. But it's definitely not easy knowing that. It's bittersweet for sure.
So you said that you gave up your career to go move to Boston and be with Colby. So as soon as Colby died, a lot of the widows we talk to talk about how in an instant their world just flips upside down and they have to make all of these huge decisions about what their life's going to look like. Have you figured out what you're going to do if you're going to go back to what you were doing before? I mean, what is your life? What is your plan right now?
I know. I feel like that's something I've really focused on the past, right after the year mark. Because again, with COVID, you couldn't do much. Canada's been in lockdown really, really bad. Like restaurants aren't open here. They just have it that you can like just eat on patios now. It's masks everywhere. Like you can't get your hair cut. So we're real locked down here still. So my main focus after he passed away And I feel like after all like the media stuff was, I just wanted to give him a funeral. I almost came weirdly fixated on it because I felt like I couldn't move forward or try and move forward in any way until there was a funeral. I felt like too guilty about it. But I think I will go back to before when Cole passed away, I was working with like hospital foundations anyways. So kind of running his memorial fund with the hockey community and being part of foundations. I'll definitely stay in that field and go back in that field for sure. But yeah, it's been really just kind of for craziness. Another thing that like you were talking about, you're kind of just thrown into it is like we didn't have joint bank accounts. Cole didn't have a will. I tell everyone now, like make a will, because if you don't have a will, my life has been miserable. Like things that as a wife you should get of his belongings or whatever, like you have to fight for. It's crazy. So I say wills and joint bank accounts, passwords, everything, because it's been a battle to get all that still. And I think it'll be a battle for a while.
How does it work in Canada? Because in the States, if you don't have a will and things like that, you have to go to probate court and fight over it in the court. Is it similar in Canada?
Yeah. His is an interesting situation though, because playing in America, so like fun fact, hockey players are paid, even if you play in Canada, they're paid in American dollars. So a lot of them have their money in America. But because I'm Canadian and he was Canadian, all of his money in his bank account is like frozen and has had to go to like probate and all of that. So that will be like 2 years. Like people, I feel like you think someone passes away and you just like get this, get that. And I'm like, it's not like this at all. And then, yeah, like belongings, that's been like a struggle, hard thing too.
I feel like you should just get the belongings.
Where are the belongings? Can we talk about this? Are they in his locker?
There's some, they're kind of all over.
Do you need us to come with some boxes and like get them? Because we will.
We can't cross the border yet, but
we will sneak in.
We have 2 Karens. Their names are Karen from Canada. One is close by you. Karen, you're on it. Go help her.
Love it. No, I've come to realize, I think sometimes it doesn't, at the end of the day, it's not about the belongings. Like I'm really lucky I have a lot of memories and I have a lot of things. So I'm okay if I don't necessarily have all the belongings, but it's definitely get a will. I'm team, like I'm going to make shirts, like young widowhood, # get a will.
Yeah. Have you been talking about that on your Instagram a lot? Like tell us what you've been doing with that.
I'm like pretty no filter on my Instagram because I'm just like sick of how young widows get judged. It's crazy. Like there's no competition in grief. There's no competition in, yeah, it's just with widowhood, everything in your life changes. Everything from waking up and putting on more water in the kettle for coffee or tea to not going to bed beside your person to not being able to text. Like it's every little thing of your life changes. So I've been really vocal about that on my Instagram. It's been a blessing and a curse, but I do think it's really, really important, as so many other things in this world you have to bring awareness to, and young widowhood definitely needs more awareness. So yeah, it's been a journey. I talk a lot about wills, joint bank accounts. My dad is an angel on earth and has helped me with so much stuff, because there's so many times you have to make those calls and they are like, who are you? You have to explain your story and you're in shock and you just start crying, and I'll just hand the phone over. Like it's horrific.
Like when people are responding to what you're posting, since you do have no filter, what kinds of things have you heard from them, like both good and bad?
A lot of them are like super positive, like just talking about mental health. You know, I think a lot of young widows, for many reasons, have mental health struggles after, whether that's depression or anxiety or PTSD. I don't know. How can you not? How can you not be messed up for the rest of your life?
Right?
Like you may get better, but you're still going to be a little traumatized for sure. So like I talk about mental health, I talk about all that kind of stuff. And so many people that aren't widows are really grateful for it. And they send really kind messages saying that they kind of get it, or they can read what I said on the 1st month mark or on the 6th month mark. And just being able, when they can't maybe articulate the words, understood that I was feeling the same. The biggest thing, honestly, that I've gotten since Colby's died negative is like just calling me like attention seeking, and that I'm using his death for fame and I'm milking it and I'm not getting over it. And
Boo!
that like it's constant. It's there's a lot of crazy stuff that I receive almost daily.
I don't think people understand that when you go through a loss like this, it occupies like 100% of your brain for a long time. It's like you're never not thinking about it. So when people are like, you're milking it or you're, focusing on it too much, you're like, this is what I'm thinking about day in and day out. I remember thinking to myself, when is this not going to be the only thing that I think about? When there was any time that was downtime, when I wasn't doing, engaged actively, my brain went right back there. And I was like, is there ever going to be a time where this is not the only thing that I can think about?
Totally. Like even as we started this conversation, I just checked my phone, and after Colby's funeral, I had to take a serious break from social media because I was getting quite a few messages. And I took a break for about like 3 weeks, and then I kind of came back and someone had commented saying, I thought she was going to go away for a while with a question mark on like one of my photos that I didn't take a long enough social media break. That was 25 minutes ago.
What?
Like just like little like daggers constantly all the time. Like,
People are
crazy.
so hard. My dad, when we first started this podcast, he's like, I just want to warn you that you may get people that say things to you that are accusing you of basically using the death as a benefit for you. I'm like, yeah, I can see that happening for sure. I mean, those people, I'm like, I just hope you go through it someday and then you'll know.
Like, it's like they think we like premeditate our husband's deaths, ask them to die or want them to die so that we can get attention from it that we don't want.
Seriously.
I mean, that's what I did for sure. But
like when I married Colby, I was like, I want you to pass away within 9 months and then get this attention. Right. That makes total sense, right? Logical? Yeah. No.
Like Anita was saying, it occupies every single second of your day. So those of us that are going through it and that now don't have problems talking about it and having no filter and saying, no, this is what it's like we are going to get pushback from that because it is not common to talk about. So, but it's true. It's just like every single aspect of your life is now through this filter and with these glasses on of grief, all of it. I don't know how else to put it.
And I feel like you forget a little bit too, like you almost get like the label. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I feel like who's Emily? Like, I feel like who's Emily other than like Colby Cave's widow? Like you kind of just, you get so wrapped up. Obviously, as you guys are saying, like it takes over your life, the grief, and it's excruciating. And that, so as you guys said, like kind of refining a purpose, you had your whole life planned out and then now having to like slowly replan it.
Like who wants to have their mission in life to help young widows from their own experiences? Nobody would choose it. So it's like, as long as you're going to be in it, you might as well help spread awareness. But yeah, it's like nobody would choose this on purpose, I don't think.
And if you do,
you're a masochist.
Very special.
Do you have other young widow friends?
Yes. I actually really lucked out. I feel bad saying that at their expense. I had a few message me right away. One of them in particular, her husband married less than 9 months. He played baseball. So she reached out to me, very similar, very sudden death. And it was nice to relate in that aspect because she had a lot of media on her too. Different deaths, obviously different sport, but she kind of got it. Like I can text her and when it's like hard to watch hockey, I can be like, isn't it crappy to watch baseball? Like there's some little things like that. And then I have other widows that I became super good friends with all over the world that have reached out through Instagram, you know, like England and Australia and in the States, and meeting you guys. You kind of come this like weird sisterhood, which is pretty special. You kind of bond over the worst thing of your life. But yeah, I'm really lucky. There's definitely times where no one gets it. Like you can text them and be like, this is frustrating. No matter how supportive your friends and family are, no one gets it more than a widower or a widower, for sure.
Definitely. When you were talking about who am I besides, Colby's widow, I think we all go through that because when we get married, we kind of join our identities to a certain degree. And then it's kind of hard to extricate ourselves, or not even extricate ourselves. It's just hard to kind of navigate what our new identity is going to be because our identity had been so caught up as a unit with that person. And it's such a hard thing to try and figure out, okay, who am I now? And not wanting to just be defined by widowhood, but also that's like a huge part of who you are now.
Now we're all on Operation Reach All the Young Widows.
Get a will.
Yeah,
Hashtag get
seriously.
a will.
Yes.
Yes, get a will.
And an advance directive too.
But the thing that's so funny is
Yeah.
like we're preaching to the choir now.
That's true.
So guys, everybody, tell your people in your lives. Spread the word.
Yeah, like if someone had told me that before he passed away when we were both 25, I'd be like, oh no, like we have time. Like until you're in it.
Yeah.
You can only preach it so much. I try though.
So Emily, you stayed in Alberta and you didn't go back to Toronto. What made you decide to stay where you were?
So Cole passed away in Toronto, and then we didn't have, because of how kind of this is like another thing, the crazy hockey life, we didn't have our own house. So wherever we played, we would just rent fully furnished things. So I had no house, like nothing. And I was like, what am I going to do now? So my mom found me an apartment on Kijiji in Edmonton. I had never seen it in person or anything. And I knew I couldn't stay in Toronto and in their house just because it was too triggering waking up and seeing him in that state. So I stayed there for a few weeks because it was like the heat of COVID and no one could travel or do anything. And then I moved out to Edmonton 6 weeks, after he passed away. And I walked into my apartment, got the keys, never seen it before, had to buy all new furniture. Like I had to start from scratch. Like I had nothing. So that's like a big adjustment, opening like our wedding gifts that we never got to open because we just left them at my parents because we were traveling all the time. So yeah, that was a big adjustment.
Did you get a juicer for your wedding gift?
I did, and I haven't used it yet. I haven't used it yet. Colby put it on the wedding registry and I don't have the heart to use it yet, but I should use it.
You should concoct a special Colby juice. That sounds
Ew,
terrible.
gross.
Don't do that. Never mind. I rescind my recommendation.
What about like an alcoholic drink?
You can do that. We just won't call it Colby juice. Anything else besides that?
Well, now you have to call it that because now you can't unhear it.
So did you move there all by yourself, or did your mom come with you, or did anybody come with you, or were you just like plopped down in this new apartment by yourself in COVID, quarantined? Goodbye, good luck.
No, my parents are so amazing. They moved me out here with like our puppy because we had a really, really young puppy at the time. He was only a few months old. I did not realize how in tune dogs are to things when like we were waiting for like the paramedics. Well, when the paramedics were there and they were doing like a responding test, like I didn't know. So they take like a knuckle to your chest and like turn it and like things to see if you're responding. Like our puppy at the time was like laying on top of Colby. And then after he passed away, he would like go to the couch that he was unresponsive on and like sniff and cry for him. So we had to end up get rid of the couch because he would be like distraught. Like he went on anxiety meds. We were all drugged. Like it was like really bad. So thank goodness my parents helped me move out here with him. And they ended up staying here for like 5 or 6 weeks because I was pretty in shock. And one thing that I noticed about widowhood or grief of any sort, a lot of people don't talk about like the physical symptoms. And I mean, I had severe PTSD, I always will, but I lost like crazy amount of weight due to stress when Colby passed away. I was down into like the 80 pounds. Like I just dropped. Like I was just so stressed. So like the grief and trauma, I would eat and all of that, but you never hear about those kind of things. Your body just goes into shock. So I needed them here to help me with a lot. And then they actually are like, again, angels on earth. They sold their house in Toronto and Ontario, and they moved to Edmonton in December. So now they live close to me, which is nice, just like for support, or not make like a dinner just for myself. Like it's hard to make a meal for one.
It's stupid.
It's depressing.
I used to love to cook, and now I'm like, I don't care. Like, you guys can eat quesadillas because I make stuff and everybody's like, this is terrible. I'm like, I don't care anymore. I know. I live with 4 jerks.
That you created.
I know. And I hate that I have responsibility for making them who they are. That's super stupid, but whatever. Did you get sick right after? Did you go through, like, have a serious illness at all? I feel like that happens a lot too. Like, your immune system is just like,
I had, it was like 2 weeks after Colby passed away, had like the broken heart syndrome. So I ended up in the emergency room with like irregular heartbeats, all of that. So I had to be monitored. And then actually recently, I actually have to see a neurologist, which will be so fun and triggering next week. There's a thing called like stress seizures. So when you've been through like an extreme amount of stress or trauma, your body doesn't know how to react and it has seizures. So they're non-epileptic. They're just treated through like therapy and trauma and like managing that. But those started like 2 weeks right before his funeral, and then 2 weeks after. I haven't had one since. But I think that was just like the anxiety of building up for a funeral, the 1 year mark, knowing people would be watching. Yeah, it was horrific. But again, that's one of those things no one talks about, grief, or PTSD and like the physical aspects. So I think it's really, really important to talk about that kind of stuff.
Do you do EMDR therapy for your PTSD?
I haven't, but I'm starting to see a trauma specialist, and they've talked about it. Have you guys done it?
Yeah, it's so helpful.
2 thumbs up.
Okay.
It's weird. I'm like, it's like, I feel like they just scramble your brain, and then at the end you're like, what just happened? But I feel better. Okay.
It's so interesting because it's not like regular talk therapy where it's like, let's talk this out and run through the scenario again. It's like there are just these certain things they do, and then it stimulates either hemisphere of the brain, and reprocesses it. It's so fascinating. And actually, Anita's going to laugh at me because I'm obsessed with this book. But there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by do you know this book?
I think people have recommended it. Is it blue?
If you haven't read it, I think you'll love it, especially because Colby's foundation addresses mental health for children, because it also goes into like trauma in childhood and long-term effects of that. And you're living with PTSD. Like, I think you would really like resonate with a lot of things in there. It's so fascinating. And it also helps you to kind of, when you do have your own like PTSD stuff, you're like, oh, I'm not crazy. Well, I'm crazy, but this is how it exhibits. So yeah, you might really, really enjoy that.
Okay. I'll definitely check that out. See, this is why widowhood's so helpful, because then we can all suggest books and therapy to get us through this messed up.
Right. You know what's weird for me, what I've noticed, like, because I'm 3.5 years out. So my husband died kind of like a perfect storm. They explained it to me, a perfect storm situation after a tonsillectomy. Like, he just had tonsillectomy and like woke up dead 3 days later. Weird. And like the first year for sure was like so hard. Second year was still hard. But then I started having less triggers. But then even just like we had Memorial Day here last week, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I can't eat the same. And it sneaks up on me, and I think it's going to go away, like all the triggers forever, but they still kind of come just differently. It's like the grief finds new ways of poking its head up. And so I know that you're not like 3 years out yet, but I've been like listening to our friends that are like early grief and stuff like that. And it's a whole ride, man.
A terrible, terrible, terrible ride.
It's a worst ride ever that we didn't buckle up for. Like, we had no idea. I see the triggers have gone down even a lot in the past year, to be honest. In the beginning, there was a lot of triggers. Now I feel like I'm more aware when to like remove myself from situations, but then there'll be like one random one, like you said, that you couldn't prepare yourself for, and then you're knocked down for the count. So it kind of, yeah, you just kind of try and ride the waves. But the main kind of triggers I knew, like I know when to prepare myself to leave a situation, to plug my ears for certain sirens, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, then there's some that just rock you. Or the song comes on and then you're like, shit.
I hate the unpredictable ones. Those are the ones that make me the most mad. And I also hate when you think something's going to be bad and then you get there and it's like, oh, no big deal. But then you're at the grocery store and a stupid song comes on and then like you're crying while you're getting your chicken nuggets and then you feel stupid. And so you buy some licorice to make yourself feel better and it doesn't even
Yes.
work. But the licorice was still delicious. I regret nothing.
Yeah, totally. The anticipation, I'm learning the anticipation of the day is actually worse than the day majority of the time.
How was the 1 year mark for you with regard to that?
There is no word. Like wow. It was the hardest part, I think, was like Snapchat memories or Instagram memories and like the videos or whatever that come up on your phone and you're like, he had 5 days left to live and I had no idea. Like just seeing those kind of things, you're like, it's so hard to wrap your head around. And then you get into the, what did I miss during those 5 days? Or what would I have done? Or I wish I did this, or like, I don't have regrets, but like there's times where I wish that like I wasn't on my phone so much at dinner, or like those like little things that you're just like, ugh. So I'd say that was really hard. And his funeral was the day before his 1 year mark. So I had the anticipation, the funeral the day before. I actually felt like I was so exhausted and cried out from the funeral the day before that actually on the actual 1 year mark, I was so exhausted.
So for most of us, we get 5 days to plan a funeral, or 3 days or whatever, and then it's over. This is going to be the weirdest question, but was it kind of like planning your wedding again? Like you have all of this time?
It was insane because I also, I feel like this sounds really privileged, but there's pros and cons to this and having a public funeral, and that it was at like the skating rink and all of that kind of stuff. The team was like working with me and helping me organize it, etc. So even just trying to pick out flowers, like I was just like, I just picked out my wedding flowers.
Yeah, that's what I imagine in my head that it would be like, and we need music for it, and we need, the venue
and the pictures. And it was like, I kept saying to my therapist every day, I'm like, I was just planning like our wedding. And I remember going to like try on, like picking out a funeral dress, and the poor lady in the store, my friend kind of filled her in a little bit. She was with me, and the poor lady was like, oh, what shoes or she showed me a dress. I said, I need a dress for a funeral. She didn't realize it was like my husband's. And she showed me one that was like short, like tank top. And I was like, I can't wear that. I can't show my arms. And she like kind of like looked a little bit weird. And then she showed me something else. I was like, no, I can't wear that. And I was picky because I knew that if it was going to be on camera, like you can't have anything low cut. Like you have to be like a little bit prepared for all those kind of things. So my friend kind of like filled her in, and I had tried on the dress that I ended up getting. And she was like, what shoes are you going to wear? And I was in such a bad mood. I was like, I don't know, maybe my wedding shoes. And I like stormed out of the dressing room. Like I was just like, this is so messed up. Like I was just planning a wedding. Like now there's a funeral. Funny thing is, like the wedding, I wanted a small wedding. I did not want a big wedding at all. Like I don't like that kind of stuff. Cole wanted a big wedding. And then of course he had a funeral where there was hundreds of thousands of people watching. And I was like, screw you. Like you left me to this again. But yeah, it was craziness. But bittersweet. I feel like I couldn't imagine I give you guys so much credit for doing it days after they passed away, because I couldn't imagine that at all. I'm sure there's still shock in that. For me, I think the shock was worn off. So I felt more, but yeah, I give you guys so much credit. Every widow and widower's circumstance is like so different. So yeah, it's all hard. You can't compare for sure.
My husband and I were married 1 year and 11 months. So it was like, okay, we had just barely, like, I'm terrible with thank you cards. We had just barely sent, he did it. He wrote the thank you cards from the wedding and sent them out. And it was like 2 weeks later, he's dead. I'm like looking at the gift cards people gave us. I'm like, I guess I'm going to use the gift cards from the wedding to pay for the funeral thing. Like, it was so weird, so surreal. And like, yeah. So when you're talking about your gifts that you hadn't opened yet because you didn't have a place, it's like,
yeah,
I get parts of that,
totally.
you know,
and you don't want to use, like, I felt guilty using them, or like, I don't know. It's really weird.
I was so mad at Scott. I was like, my husband is a theater director, and I was like, you suck. I'm a musician, so I'm like, I'd rather be behind the scenes. And it was like, really, now we have to do a whole production for your funeral? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly how I felt.
You are the worst.
But then I feel guilty for being mad at them because they died, and it's just all a mind game. I can't tell you how many times I say it at least once a day. I'm like, Colby, you left me to the wolves. Like, what did you do? Like, I know it wasn't your choice, but you just left me here in this crap show. Like,
yeah, now you have to deal with it.
Oh, good thing I love him.
I love that you are doing good things to help spread the word, even though it's so effing hard. And there's a lot that goes with young widowhood. So thanks for helping all the young widows out there and helping to spread more awareness about what we go through. And it sucks that you're an introvert in this position. And good job at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you guys for doing this like podcast and everything, because I know it's helping so many people as well that listen, and being able to widows have dark humor. Like, you're kind of like left with this dark humor, and I feel like when I joke with like people that aren't widows, they're like, you are messed in the head. Like,
you're like, and I'm so funny.
Yeah, you know, obvious. But like, it's actually like when you like joke about things, like when I say Colby left me the wills, people think I'm like so mean, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just joking. Like, there's like, yeah, it's so nice to talk to other widows when you can like joke and laugh about things that really no one else would get.
Emily, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. We really appreciate how open you have been with us. We hope that everybody else has found this episode helpful. You can find Emily on Instagram. What's your Instagram?
It's M, so E-M, and then .cave, so C-A-V-E.
M Cave. And don't be like Colby. Don't low-key stalk her. And also don't send her mean emails. Not emails, whatever they're called. Remember to join the Widow Wives Club on Facebook and answer all the questions, including agreeing to the group rules. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/WWDN. And if you just want us to have a delicious taco, you can go to
buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
And until we talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Emily.
We're just two young widows and one widow specializing in the hashtag get a will. And we're trying to figure out
Widow we do now. This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys. Such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.